Hello, in this video we are going to review the FriendNetwork coding assignment that we did yesterday in TechSmart. And the point of this is actually to kind of highlight some of the things that are important in this fairly simple program that will make programming going forward a lot easier the faster you understand some of these concepts. And that's one of the reasons why we do some pretty simple programs at the beginning. They might seem like they're kind of mundane or boring, but they are there to serve to show you kind of repetitively how we use variables, how we assign variables, how we typecast, all of those different things. And Python is one of those languages that, while it can do an enormous amount of things, and there are a lot of options in Python, there's really not a whole lot that we actually do. We have variables, we have inputs, we have a lot of parentheses and quotes and strings and stuff like that, but beyond that is not an enormous number of things to try to remember. So we're going to just really quickly look at this and just make sure that we understand how these vocabulary words that we're learning apply in the context of the coding environment. So this started off, and remember we read the comments. That's always very, very important. And we use the input with the prompt, what is your name? And we assigned it to a variable called name. Now this again is an important thing to understand when you're using TechSmart, that sometimes you really have, all the time, you really have to read the comment well and carefully, and you have to already have an understanding of the logic of a program regardless of what it's trying to do. And what I mean by that is all programs are going to have variables, because variables are the sorts of things that we can change, and we can use that data for all sorts of different things. So we're going to assign a variable a name. Usually it's a name that we'll be able to figure out what it means. And then we're going to assign that variable name to a value. So in this case, the variable name is name, and that's equal to the value that in this input. And the placeholder is what is your name. And so when we see that on the screen, we're going to then type in our name into that input. But the variable is name. And then the assignment, it's assigned to this input. And that's important because when you look at the comments, the second thing that it says is assigned to a variable called name. Now, if you only think sequentially in your head, then you're going to think, okay, I've got to do the input, then I have to assign the variable. That's not how it is. You have to assign the variable to the input. And you would know that if you really understood how programs work. So that's something that you will see quite often. And this isn't really stating this backwards. It's basically stating it correctly of how to do it. But to a novice programmer, it might look backwards. But irregardless, name is the variable, and then that's assigned to the input, what is your name? And then we have a similar thing here because this asks for an update. And so update is the other variable name, and that's assigned to the input, what is your life update today? And also importantly, and this is not always super consistent with these programs, but we always want to make sure we put the correct amount of spaces after things so that when we have an output, everything looks right. And then in our output section, the print is what you know this is an output because it says print. And remember, print isn't printing on the printer. Print is showing something on your console or on your screen. And so this is a concatenation. Name is the variable, plus tells you that this is a concatenation, the string space posted with a colon. So when we see this on our screen, it's going to be Michael, if I put that down, then Michael space posted with a colon is what you're going to see on your screen. Now when you look at this, notice how name is not any color, it's just your normal black text. That tells you this is a variable, 100%. Every time you see something that's like this, or like this, these are variables. You know that because they don't have any, they're not bold, they're not any other color, they just are what they are. And notice that we've got posted here in red, this is in red, this is in red, all the strings are in red, and then every print statement is always going to be in blue. So this is one way of being able to figure out what you're actually doing. And so we've got this one here on line 22, print would be Michael concatenated with the word posted. And then we have another print on 27, and this one here is just 5 spaces, then plus update. And update is the other variable. So whatever was actually entered into the update field would be here. And then we have just 2 statements strings. There's nothing here that's special. It's just, in quotes, this update was posted just now. And it's going to say your friends like this. So understanding how this works, even though this is a basic program, is really, really important. And the faster you learn these rules, because these rules apply in every single program, then the better off you're going to be. Also notice, importantly, that there's no errors. Like every parentheses has a closing parentheses. Every quote has a closing quote. And that's just universal. Now, sometimes your Chromebook keyboard will default over to the international keyboard. And you will know that when your quotes stop looking like normal quotes. And so nothing will work if you try to use the international keyboard quote on a Chromebook computer on this. So you just have to switch it to US. So if you find that none of your strings are working and you're getting an error, that's probably why, because it's trying to do a quote that's not being read by the computer. But that being said, all of that explains this. And the only other thing I'm going to mention is everything with a hashtag is a comment. And comments are never read by the computer. So all of these things, these are instructions. But like on line 27, I could just put a hashtag there, and now that's a comment. Now this is not going to get printed. And sometimes we call it commenting out. We'll add a comment sign in front of a line of code because we want to run a program, but we want to ignore that code for whatever reason. We'll probably get to that a little bit later. But these are all comments, as is at the top. If you want to do a multi-line comment without all of these hashtag things, then you just do the 3 parentheses and 3 parentheses. But watch what happens when I delete these 3 parentheses. Everything turns red, and the reason why is because after these 3 parentheses, it's thinking that everything is a comment until it finds the next set of 3 parentheses, which there is none. So if I were to run this program, nothing would work because I got rid of these parentheses here. But if I put them back, then it fixes everything and we're happy again. Good. So there's a quiz, actually, that you're going to have to take very, very soon, right after you finish watching the next video that I literally gave you all the answers to in this video. So make sure you do that and make sure you get a good grade so that you can move on to the next programming and not be lost.